This is going to be a walkthrough of the game Turing Complete. In this first episode, we'll be going through all of the basic logic gates. In the first real level, what you're presented is a NAND gate. The NAND gate is going to be your basic gate for all further levels, which means that it is technically possible, if you wanted to create all further logic with only NANDs. This level is asking us to select the output for what the NAND gate is doing, and we can look at the inputs, which are these two lines on in, and the output, and deduce what the output is just by looking at what the NAND gate does. We can see that when both the inputs are low, then the output is high. When the top input is high, it's still high. So we can select that here. When both of the inputs are high, it is low. So we can select that here. And when the bottom input is high and the top input is low, we can see that the output is also high. So with these outputs selected, we can check, and we can see that beats this level. It's important to note that the NAND is actually code for not AND, meaning that this is a AND gate, as in when both of these highs, it'll produce a signal with a not in front of that, which is the inversion. So it'll be off when two inputs are high, and it'll be on when two inputs are not high. We can now move on to the NOT gate. And you can see that we are given the NAND component. This is the only component that we have, so we must use this. And our task is to convert this NOT AND gate into a NOT gate. Obviously, the output, there's only one output to our gate, so that's going to be our basic connection there. And you can see that when the input is low, we want it to be high, and when the input is high, we want it to be low. When looking at the NAND gate, we can see that when both inputs are high, it's going to be low, which means that what we should do is we should connect this input to both of these outputs. What this does is that this ties both of these together, the both inputs to the NAND gate together, which means that these two middle states are now impossible, because if one input is high, then the other input also must be high because they're connected to the same wire. In this case, when it's off, it's going to be on, and when the input is on, the output is going to be off, which is exactly what the NOT gate is asking us. We can tick through, and we can see this is correct. Now we're moving on to the NOR gate. The NOR gate is off in every case except for when both inputs are also off. Now, we could use a NAND gate here. However, as we'll soon see, this game has a peculiarity, which means that we can perform one type of gate without using any real components, and that is the OR. If we connect these two wires together, this again eliminates both of these middle possibilities. If the top one is high and the bottom one is low, then the output here is still going to be high because one of these is high. So what this means is that this wire merge here means that there is an implicit OR going on. Whenever one of these is high, the output is always going to be high. And now looking at the bottom truth table, if we ignore these two middle columns because they're not possible, we can see that when it's off, we want it to be on, and when it's on, we want it to be off. And if you look at the truth table to the NOT gate that we just made, that's exactly what we have here. So we can put that into our circuit, connect that to out, and you can see that it works. Just to be clear, we can see here in this middle section, this is equivalent to this last truth column, because if this is on, this bottom wire is also powered. Same with here. When this bottom wire is powered, this top wire is also powered. So these two sections are equivalent to this bottom one. Likewise, we just saw in the last level of NOR that we can implicitly create an OR with a wire merge. This means that this wire merge over here is equal to an OR. Next, we get to the AND gate. Recall that we mentioned that the NAND gate is an AND gate with a NOT in front of it. So connecting this one up directly to the input, it's already quite close to what we want. However, you can see that the desired output and the output of our NAND gate are opposite to each other. And one obvious or not so obvious, depends on your background, is that the NOT gate does inversions, which means that if we feed it the NAND gate output, it'll turn all the offs on and all the ons off. So we can connect the NOT gate to the output of our NAND gate and feed that to the output. So this shows us one of the basic rules of Boolean logic, and that's two nots will cancel each other out. So there's a not in this and then there's a not here, so that'll cancel it out. Similarly, if we grab two more NOT gates and we connect it like this will also work, because this NOT cancels out this NOT from the and these two NOTs cancel each other out. So you can see this also works, which means that any two pairs of NOTs is equivalent to nothing at all. Next, we have a circuit that's always on. An always on circuit just means that the input we don't care about because it's always on. So we don't care what the input is. We always want this to be on. Now, looking through the gates that we have, we see that the NOT gate has an output of on when the input is off. So we can connect the output to the NOT gate to our out node and just not connect this in node to anything. Therefore, it doesn't matter what the input node is, the input to this out to this NOT gate will always be off, resulting in an always on. Now here we reach one of the first tricky levels of the game, second tick. What it's asking us is for it to be on only when input 1 is high and input 2 is low. Any other possibility, we want the output to be low. So when looking at something like this, what you can do is, this is a AND case. You can see out of the gate, the AND gate is when both inputs are high, the output should be high. So to convert the AND gate's truth table into the truth table of this puzzle, we need to turn input 2 and we need to invert it to turn all the ons to be offs and all the offs to be on. What this results in is this truth table will be on here and off here, meaning that the desired output will be on only when both are on, which is exactly what this AND gate is. So input 1, we can directly feed in. And remember, the NOT gate performs inversions, turning all the offs to be on input 2, and all the ons to be off on input 2. And as we can step through this, we can see that this AND gate is now off and on, because remember, we flipped and inverted all the input 2's. Both are on here, which is what the AND gate produces, which is when both inputs are on, it'll produce an output. And for the rest of these, this input will be off because we inverted input 2, which gives us our correct output. After this, we have the XOR gate. Before, all we've been doing is doing a bunch of logical reasoning and basically guessing. However, starting from this level, I'm going to show you a way to sort of brute force your way past all of these puzzles. And that's to look at how to convert this truth table into a series of ands and ors. So each individual column will be a and then the entire output will be an OR. What I mean by this is you can recall in the last level, we had an AND gate and a NOT in front of one of the inputs to only turn on during this column. We can do a similar thing for this XOR gate. We can look at this column and we say, okay, this is going to be an AND gate. Input 1 is going to be normal because it's high. And input 2 is low, so we pass it through a NAND gate. And then we look at this other column that's also on. And we say, okay, input 2 is high, so that can be normal. And input 1 is is off, so we can pass that through a NOT gate. So we can see that input 1 is normal for our first column and it's inverted for our second column and where it's off. And then input 2 is inverted for the first column and it's normal for our second column and. Now that we have each individual column figured out, we can simply OR these two. So the result will be an OR. You can check. This works. And this is sort of a brute force way to approach any of the puzzles. You look at the column of your desired output and your inputs, and you place down the corresponding and NOT, and then at the end, you OR all of the columns together. Bigger OR gate looks complicated at first, but remember, when we created the first OR gate, we just merged all the wires. This approach still works for the bigger OR gate. We can connect all the wires together into one point and feed that to the output, which means that when all the wire inputs are off, then it's going to be off. But if any one of them are on, then it's always going to be on for the output. Next, we move on to the bigger AND gate. This is slightly trickier. However, you have to realize that the AND gate can be chained. This is because the AND gate only produces an output when both of its inputs are high, which means connecting the first two inputs to one AND gate means that the output of this AND gate will only turn on when both of these are on, which means that the input to the second AND gate will only be on when both of these are on. And that means that the output to the second AND gate will only be on when both of these are on and this is also on. And you can see that works. Finally, in our logic gates, we have the XNOR gate. The XNOR gate is a XOR gate, but with a NOT. So, quite similarly, we can look at the XOR gate and see that it's exactly what the output wants, but the output is inverted from what the output of the XOR gate is. And we can invert things with a NOT. So we can connect an XOR gate and a NOT gate, and you can see this produces the output that we want. Thank you for watching this first episode covering basic logic. And starting with next episode, we will go under the arithmetic section of Turing Complete.